Hello. So, in this session, I want to talk about the power of shut in. Shut in is when you set yourself apart, you remove yourself from a community, and you go into somewhat of an isolation. And you begin to pray, and you begin to fast, and you begin to engage God, you begin to engage the supernatural. Um, and I want to kind of talk about that a bit, the benefits of it, as well as how it contrasts against other spiritual practices. What's really the difference between, let's just say, I pray all the time when I have time and shut in? So, most people uh, don't have time, in a sense, to set aside some time, a large period of time. So, they pray whenever they have time, or they might make a little time to pray whenever they do. Um, they kind of struggle. Oftentimes, they struggle in order to really mature spiritually. They struggle in that area. And it's not because their prayers are weak, it's that it's not as frequent or as potent enough for any long lasting effects on their life. Um, Same with fasting, where let's just say you're fasting, but you still got to go to work. You still got to go and be around people. You still got to go and teach. You still got to go and whatever it is that you're doing around other people. You still have to go do that, but you're fasting. You still will receive the benefits of fasting. It'll just be to a lesser extent than if you were isolated, praying, and fasting. And this is because when you isolate yourself and you go into a shut in, you're kind of like, the best way I could describe it is kind of like being in a pressure cooker where you're actually able to get more out of, let's just say, 1 day, 2 day, 3 days of shut in than you would if you fasted for 40 days straight. Now, think back to, let's just say, biblical narrative. Some of the most powerful individuals did both, where they would shut in for 40 days, which is why a lot of us who have done 40-day fasts, I have, it's typically lesser than, we usually don't get the exact same results as we read about, um, simply because a lot of us did them and still had to go out into the regular world. We still had to work, we still had to interact with people, so it broke the immersion. So if I were to say it this way, when you're in a shut in, you're somewhat baptized in prayer. You're baptized and immersed and submerged in the spirit, in spiritual practice, meaning that you don't have to break your immersion. You don't have to leave this space, and you get to just grow. Uninterrupted development, right? And should you be in, let's just say, a closed in environment, that means the energy that you're producing, the energy that you're releasing, isn't just going out into the world, is actually staying into this room with you and continuing to re-impart itself. So not only, see, and that's even the difference between, let's just say, praying out in the open versus praying in a confined space. Is that when you pray out into the open, you're releasing into creation, and that's it. It comes back when it comes back. But when you're in a more confined space, let's just say you're just in your room, you might buy a hotel room for a few days so that you can go pray. You might have a closet, a special place, whatever. When you're able to shut yourself in, well, that energy can't really leave the way it could if you were just out in some field. So what you're releasing hits the walls, comes right back to you. And it releases and then comes right back to you. So you're receiving impartation after impartation after impartation, upgrade after upgrade after upgrade. So if you really allow this to work for you, you'll experience significant growth in a short amount of time, and it won't be because you cheated. There's not. This is the closest you're going to get to a shortcut. But what does it cost? the cost is still high because it costs time. In a time period, in a society that we live in, where your hours are necessary, the idea of setting aside a day are scary for some people, or sometimes it seems impossible. Recently, I did an event, 24 hours of prayer. It was possible. It was fun. Uh, Everybody that came was impacted positively. Everyone that came benefited. Now, the way that I set that one up is that it was from 6 p.m. the first day to 6 p.m. the next day. So, and people came and left as they needed to, but the majority of the people that came stayed the whole time, and that was what was surprising. I was expecting to be by myself at some points, but nope, I had some people really pull through. So I will be hosting more of those, more shut-ins. Just follow me on social media, um, Facebook, the Facebook group Cave of Mystery, the Instagram page, the Discord server, link in the description. If you have my book, all my links are in the back of my book. So that was just an early ad. But if you really want to see significant growth and you want to see significant growth fast, you might have to sacrifice some days. Most places, well, let's just say you get 2 off days a week. Use one of your off days for shut-in. You might want to, hey, if you're after it, if you're hungry enough, if you really want to see, if you really want to encounter the supernatural, if you really want to walk in some powerful things, use your PTO. Use your PTO if you have to. Not just saving it up for vacation, but save it up for your spiritual development. Use your PTO so that you have a time where you're still getting paid, so that you can relax and just be in the spirit and just engage God for a time. It is unreal the type of things that you can tap into. I'm going to have to do a video just talking about supernatural manifestations. On Patreon, I already have a Gifts of the Spirit that's on there. But I'll have to go into supernatural manifestations of all sort in another video, because that's a topic I could talk about for forever. So that's it for this session. Just talking about the power of shut-in. If you really want to see growth, set aside some time and really incubate yourself so that you can be born as something new, so that you can yeah. Yeah, so that concludes this episode. Y'all be blessed.